Welcome back to Adobe Photoshop CC. In this tutorial, we're going to explore the power of curves. In the previous tutorials, we've gone over brightness, contrast, and levels. If I click on the levels adjustment here, you'll see here that if I do the auto adjustment by holding on Alt or Option and clicking on it and going through each of these channels, that we get an okay kind of adjustment. Like I would probably go with the contrast one here, the enhance, the auto tone one, and click OK. But at this point, we could adjust the darks and the light needles, but we can't really finesse enough in terms of the luminosity throughout here. It just doesn't give us quite enough flexibility. We only have three control points basically, a black, white, and a gray here. So I'm going to close this out and I'm going to leave this adjustment. So we're going to start with this, but I'm going to add the curves adjustment, which is the next adjustment on here. Once I click on that, let's go ahead and expand a little bit. I'm going to actually broaden it out. Let me bring it down a little bit and expand it here. We have a black and the white needle here. So you can see here that it's very similar to the levels in that sense. And if I hold down Alt or Option, it still shows the clipping that'll occur. So I still got that ability to kind of finesse those two ends. It's what's in between that makes curves so powerful. Now right now it's a straight line, so it doesn't give you that indication that is a curve. But as soon as I click in here, I can drag up or down and actually create a curve, which is pretty amazing. So I can drag this center line down to get some really nice overall kind of darks throughout here and get some really beautiful contrast. Now I can add additional points here and click and drag. What you want to be careful of is to not go too far in the extreme. You'll see you get some rather interesting color effects. They're not necessarily ones that you want. So it does take some control kind of figuring out, what to do with this curve thing. And if you take it too far, you're like, oh, I don't really like that point. All you gotta do is hold the control key or the command key and actually click on it and it will disappear. So we have our current one here, or I can control and command click that one. Another way to work is you can actually click on this little widget up here. Now there are those same eye drops here, so if you do have a mid gray, you could click on it and do that. But this little hand widget here is so much more powerful. When you click on it, the way it works, you basically click up and down along here. Now I haven't clicked anywhere. Notice as I move around here that it's jumping around along the line, kind of indicating, where it's at. And then if I basically click somewhere, it'll actually create a point. So like maybe like right here I'll click, and then as I hold the mouse down, if I go up I'm going to add light there. If I go down, I'm going to darken. And so I can do that in several areas here. I can come along here and click and be like, oh, I want to lighten this little area up a little bit. And so you can have a little bit more finesse by doing this little adjustment. Now again, you want sort of an S curve to happen typically, so it sort of starts here, and typically you can drag up here from the top part, but you don't want it to go downwards. You get these very peculiar artifacts, as you can see here in the center of the image. If I drag up and down from there, let me go ahead and remove this point. In fact, my control clicking on it. So I think this is working out pretty good. Now you can click on one point and then you can arrow through and arrow down if you want a little bit more control. So I can go down a little bit, I can go back up, just like that, which is kind of cool. Plus or the minus, you basically move from one point to the other. So I've got the center one selected now. As I increase it, it's going to get darker. If I go down, it's going to get a little bit lighter. And I find this is the best way to actually manipulate curves, is to really have super control over it, finesse it as much as possible by clicking on these individual points. Perhaps you need to spread it out, move it up, and just nudging it by the arrows. Now if you hold shift arrow, you're going to get a more drastic effect, obviously. So I find if you just do a little bit of nudging here and there, that's when it works best. I'm starting to really like this image. I think it looks pretty powerful now. Let me go ahead and close out the curves option here. And again, this is a adjustment layer, so it is if I open up my layers here, it is an adjustment layer. It is parametric, not static. So you can see what a difference that makes before and after. I mean, how much of that has taken over. I mean, if we remove both of these, uh, I thought I had a pretty decent image, but looking at it, this is an image I took at Arches National Park. As I add these two adjustments, wow, now it's got some spectacular qualities to it. So that's it for exploring the curves. Have fun. Again, it is the third and most powerful, in some ways, a little more complicated of the adjustments. The one thing I didn't mention was that you can go into it channel by channel, just like you could with the levels. So if you found some blues that you're like, oh, those aren't working for me, I can click in here and kind of mess with them. And actually, it did seem a little bit cool, so I might actually bring that down just a tad to warm it up just a little bit more. Actually, I like that better. So that was good. Usually it's the blue and the red channel I switch to. The green channel sometimes I have to adjust if it's getting a little bit too much of the yellows action out there. But overall, this looks really great now. So until next time, see you soon in Adobe Photoshop CC. Cheers.